growing up in the 80s with cartoons and comic books and video games, and never really leaving that stuff. I mean, that's what I love. I love pop culture, and I think that that's just deep-seated in my subconscious. So as I grew up and I became a little bit older and realized that creativity and making art and being a designer is really what I love to do, that just manifested itself. I'm Shawn Smith. I'm the owner and creative director here at Shawnimals. Essentially, we're a character design studio. We make all sorts of crazy characters and stories and manufacture the world that they live in. And a lot of times, basically, that then translates into products. So toys, character branded merchandise like t-shirts and buttons and stickers, and then more recently, like interactive experiences like video games. So we have an iPhone game and a game for Nintendo DS. So I'm working at this magazine called Electronic Gaming Monthly as a game reviewer, and I love it, it's awesome, but I realized that making art and this sort of weird stuff is what I really love. So I left the magazine and went back to college to study painting. During that time, this is 2001 now, is when I started making these weird stuffed animal things. They weren't really called Shawnimals. And a couple years later, kind of turned into a business, moved to Chicago, and 2006 is really when I went full-time. So we incorporated, I went full-time with my wife Jen, and we focused on Shawnimals exclusively. As we were creating these characters, I realized that it would make sense to give them a place to live, right? So Shawnimaland was born from that, and now there's 22 countries where all those different characters live. So there's Ninja Town, of course, there's the Hot Dog Kingdom, Foodlandia, Bean Village, the Dark Forest, which is where all the bad guys live, basically, Pennsylvania. It's just all these ridiculous countries, and that's the kind of stuff where it's just like, you know, it'd be funny is if we made this pair of pants, and then from there it's like, they should live somewhere, and that's where they're going to live, is in Pennsylvania, and from there, like, creatively, I think setting up those kinds of parameters for what you're doing, it breeds so much more stuff. And I think once we establish that as our conceptual basis, so any character that we create exists somewhere in that world, that's great. You know, then we can have all this awesome base to build upon for anything else that we do. And that's what we do now. When we focus on creating those characters and giving them some sort of life beyond just being a design, and then giving them some context within the world, that can go anywhere and everywhere. So that's why we can make any kind of product we want. It doesn't mean that someone who buys that thing is going to understand all of that. But creatively, we're going to have that basis to take it wherever we want to go. And I find that the most exciting. From an aesthetic standpoint, when we're actually designing something, we have this thing that we always try to do is like, how do we make something interesting from a visual standpoint, you know, without over-designing it and throwing all these details in it. It's going to clobber someone over the head. They're not going to really enjoy it because it's all explained. So we're always trying to maintain that sort of simple aesthetic, allowing the person who's looking at it to personify it themselves and give it whatever personality they want, and really at the end of the day make it their own. And then, you know, maybe if we're lucky, it hooks them in a way that they'll get into our world then and dig deeper.